Craig Meriwether, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate this. I know it's been a long time coming. We had some scheduling hiccups, but I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
We did, and so did I. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, like you say, but I'm looking forward to getting into it. So,
Yeah.
I want to start off just by giving a brief sort of insight into what hypnotherapy is. So, a lot of people sort of know the term and maybe have an image in their mind, but could you just give us a brief run through of what it sort of consists of, if that's possible?
Sure. It's it might even be helpful to start with what it is not. And
Mhm.
because a lot of the misconceptions out there from movies and TV shows, which is really unfortunate because this is a very powerful uh, form of healing, not just emotional healing or dealing with mindset issues like confidence, but also physical healing as well. This is great for pain control. It's great for healing acceleration. And not just because I've seen it with the people I work with, but the research is out there. And basically, I think the best way to describe this is we're actually giving back control during
Mm.
hypnotherapy. We don't take away control. If somebody's struggling with anxiety or maybe anger issues, maybe they know what it's about, maybe they don't. Really, control has already been taken away. You're reacting to your world in a way that was probably not very resourceful, not very resilient to you. And so in a way, you're already hypnotized. You're hypnotized to literally change your physiology to react to the world, even though maybe there's not a real serious threat to your safety. And so, it's really a lot of work for the body to turn on the stress response. The brain has to start creating the hormones of adrenaline and cortisol, dumping into your bloodstream. 300% more blood's moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight. 300% more blood moving to the big muscles of your legs to escape. That's got to come from somewhere. So
Mm.
your body's turning down the power on your immune system. That's why people get sick when they're stressed. Turning down the power in your digestive system. No need to digest that sandwich to have energy in 7 hours. You're in danger right now. And that's why people get irritable bowel syndrome when, they're dealing with chronic anxiety. So there's a lot of effort in creating a stress response. And so through your perception of your world, you're literally changing your physiology. And again, this may all be happening automatically. And so, in a sense, a lot of people have lost control. They're already hypnotized. So this work is giving you back control, learning how to reset your nervous system, learning literally how to start changing the chemistry in your brain and rewiring your brain. And so we're giving back control. We're really dehypnotizing people from
Mm.
the unknown, unconscious instructions on how to keep you safe in your world. Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy a non-deceptive placebo. And what he means by that is we know the placebo effect when, let's say, a pharmaceutical company is doing research on a high blood pressure medication. Half the group's going to get that placebo. They're going to get a sugar pill. They're going to be tricked into healing themselves because they know mind will heal the body. So they need to account for that in their research. So half the group's going to be told, yes, they're getting medication, but they're really getting tricked into just taking a sugar pill to see if how many will actually heal themselves. The other half of the group is getting the real medication. And so let's say for our example here, 30% of the people in the placebo group get better. They've healed themselves. Let's say 40% of the people get better in taking the real medication. Well, they have to subtract 30% because maybe they also got better through mind. They healed themselves. The medication had nothing to do with it. So
Mm.
really only 10% got better, and that's good enough, and we'll put it on the market at, $50 a pill. But nobody really looks, yeah, but 30 more people got better through mind. More people got better through healing themselves. And so hypnotherapy, in just a short little definition, is a non-deceptive placebo. We're not going to trick you into healing yourselves.
Mm.
You're going to heal yourself on purpose with your intention. Because I can't make anybody do anything they want to do. I know we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button about, the stereotypical, you're getting sleepy with the pocket watch or whatever. And there's a certain element to that of helping people relax. And back in the olden days, and that looks good in the movies and in TV shows, but excuse me, back in the day, that was just so good way to help people relax and focus. Maybe if you've ever been in a boring meeting at work, or a boring conference, or remember back in school, and there was that class that just bored you and you just started staring out the window and you start
Mm.
thinking about the weekend and how much fun you're going to have on the weekend. That's what you're doing with the pocket watch. You're just kind of trying to get somebody into a more relaxed state, slowing down brainwave state. So going from that beta conscious level of state, like firing around 18 cycles per second, moving down to the alpha brainwave state, firing about 12 cycles per second. Literally, just the biology of it is slowing down brainwave state to enter that more relaxed state, that trance state, that altered state of consciousness.
Mm.
But it's something we do every day. Again, whether you're bored in school or at a meeting or watching TV, or you're driving home, let's say, and you start thinking about, oh, the meeting tomorrow and you got to prepare for that, or the weekend's coming up, you have people coming over, and all of a sudden you find yourself at your house and you don't remember driving the last 5 blocks. You've altered your state of consciousness while driving a car. And while it's safe because your subconscious mind knows how to drive home, you've done it. If you've lived there several years, 365 days a year, you've driven home thousands of times. So you know how to do it. Just like you know how to tie your shoes, how to ride a bicycle, how to walk down the street. You know how to do it, so your subconscious mind takes over control of driving home the last 5 or 6 blocks. But you've altered your state of consciousness. So this is something you do all the time. We
Mm.
also know that mind heals the body. You also do that all the time. And somebody cuts their hand, uh, you don't really have to think much about it. Maybe put a little, clean it up and put a little cleaning solution on there. But then it just scabs up, then the scab falls away, and it kind of have that pinkish skin. And then after about a week or so, it's not there anymore. You don't have to think about it. The body just heals itself. So we
Mm.
know this can happen. So non-deceptive placebo, we're not going to trick you into doing it. We're going to help you relax, move you into an altered state of consciousness, which, while sounds fancy, is really just not unlike meditating, or if somebody does yoga, that relaxation at the end of a yoga class, savasana, or just being bored in
Yeah.
school or at a meeting at work, or just watching TV.
Yeah.
Moving into this kind of altered state of consciousness and accessing your power to heal. That's all hypnotherapy is. And it's unfortunate that there's so many misconceptions around TV and movies because it helps move the plot forward. Why spend a lot of time training, Jason Bourne how to assassinate, the person? Uh, why not just hypnotize them and we'll save a lot of money and save a lot of time filming? So
Yeah.
it's really just a way of using your intention, what you want to do, and accelerate it. So what I mean by intention is I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. That's just that control thing. That's
Mm.
not real. You can't control anybody else using these methods. I can't make anybody quit smoking if they don't want to quit smoking. So that's what hypnotherapy is kind of famous for, helping people to quit smoking cessation. But if somebody doesn't want to quit, they come to a hypnotherapy session and they just want to negotiate with their wife or their husband to smoke in the garage or smoke outside, they're not going to quit because they don't want to quit. They like smoking.
Mm.
So I can't go into bars, I can't go into Las Vegas casinos and just with my pocket watch hypnotize everybody to quit smoking because it's going to
Yeah.
be better for everybody's health and I don't know, the economy or whatever. I can't go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens. I can't go to the world leaders and hypnotize them all to create world peace and end war.
Mm.
I can't get Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check. He doesn't want to. So I can't hypnotize him into writing me $1 billion check. So this isn't about controlling other people. That's not possible. That's for the movies, that's for TV.
I like what you said about giving control back. So that idea, like you said about in the movies, it's that sort of, it's almost showing it in the wrong light because they sort of take away control and they trick people into things, and it's the complete opposite. So giving that back to them, I really like that idea of sort of giving them, and like you say, they're already hypnotized into their current state of thinking. Um, so just to look at your journey into it. So you've been doing it for a bit over 12 years, I think.
Somewhere around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your journey into it? How did you first sort of get involved in it?
Well, it was just my own, like a lot of people who kind of move into the healing realms to help other people. It was really my own hurt and pain I was going through. I struggled a lot with depression and anxiety growing up, especially my teenage years, and that's the 1980s. And there wasn't much going. Of course, there's no internet that at least we could access, and so information was at a minimum. It's whatever book you could find at the bookstore, the library, maybe talk therapy, but that was pretty much it. Those SSRI drugs, Prozac and things, didn't come out until the mid 1990s, late 1990s. But it was really the birth of my son in the year 2001 where I just like, I got to get my life together. Because sometimes you'll step up for somebody else when you can't or won't step up for yourself.
Mm.
And so I said, well, I need to, because if my mother struggled with depression, I struggle with depression and anxiety. So what's the chance of my son's going to struggle as well? So if I could come up with some techniques or tools or strategies and not only help myself, but then, okay, now I know these work, I can help him if he struggles. So whether it's nature or nurture, there's a good chance it's going to happen. So I just started a lot of trial and error and a lot of on and off just because of life, because of career. We moved cities, moved to Flagstaff, Arizona, and just with the challenges of a baby and a new life in a new town, it was kind of on and off. But whenever I could try new exercises, new techniques, new strategies. The internet was out at that point, so there was a lot more information, a lot of information about what was going on with the SSRI drugs and Prozac and things like that. So it was just diving into all that and seeing what worked for me and creating my own toolbox of tools. And I just woke up one day and realized I hadn't been depressed in a long time. I'd kind of, the frog in the boiling pot of water is kind of the reverse of that. It was like, I feel better. I
Mm.
feel really good. And it had been a while since I had felt that heaviness and that depression. And one of the things that really helped me was hypnotherapy, because in what I was reading, books, blog posts, articles, hearing interviews and talks, oftentimes the person would give their top 5 things to do to change your life. And always 4 would be different, but one was always hypnotherapy. And all these people were talking about hypnotherapy in the early 2000s and how powerful it was. Because again, it's not like as a hypnotherapist, I fix anybody. I don't. And hypnotherapy in and of itself is not going to fix anybody. You fix yourself. Again, that's where the control comes. You give back control. You're going to fix yourself because I don't know what's wrong with you, but you do. And yeah, maybe it's in the unconscious part of mine. It's behind that curtain. But that's what's powerful. And this is why this is different than talk therapy. Talk therapy is very important. And I suggest everybody do. I think it's important for everybody to do that kind of therapy, just to start talking about life and what you're going through. But in terms of the deeper healing and the core issues, sometimes you don't even know what they are because they are behind that curtain. But you're allowed, by altering your state of consciousness, by moving to a more relaxed, restful state, to open up that curtain and change the instructions on how you perceive your world and how you feel you need to keep yourself safe and protected. And so I used that in the early 2000s to help myself. And it was, going through life again, I got the opportunity to actually train as a hypnotherapist. Went
Mm.
to a wonderful school here in America. Uh, Hypnotherapy Academy of America is a great school. Yeah, school you actually go to, sit in a classroom with other people, and you learn about this. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday for 500 hours. And so it's great training. And that's just the base, on top of all the continuing education and other trainings because this stuff is so fascinating. And so it was really like a lot of people that I think get into helping other people, is this really helped me. And so
Yeah.
why not use it to help other people? It's just,
Yeah, I think it's a really nice story hearing that, how it helped you and how what you went through. And then that's the sort of drive behind it. And obviously that's why it appeals to you now, helping other people who are maybe going through what you went through. So
yeah.
some of the words that sort of around what you do, so anxiety, fears, phobias, trauma, they're all words that people will know who are listening, and they'll understand sort of the base meaning. But how do we tend to develop those behaviors? Is it over a long period? How does that set into someone's mind?
Yeah, the issue around let's because there's I think two different things. I think fear, anxiety, those are feeling states within the body.
Hmm.
Trauma is the actual encoding from a specific event, a circumstance, situation that can cause anxiety and fear or anger.
Right.
And so, really, the subconscious mind, while it's here running our immune system and our digestive system, beating our heart and growing our hair and taking us from a 1 day old baby to an adult, all things we don't have to think about. We don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about splitting our cells and all this stuff.
Mm.
So it's doing that in the background. It's holding on to those habits that we have, like tying our shoes and riding a bicycle, and if we know how to play a musical instrument, or driving a car or walking, all those little habits that we have, as well as helping us navigate through our lives with communicating with other people. But its main job is to keep us safe and protected. It's for survival, which doesn't necessarily mean your happiness and your success, just means it wants you safe. And what it's using is what you have experienced in the past as a guide on how to keep you safe. And so it's almost like it has this big filing cabinet. And in that filing cabinet, all these files of all the things you have been through that have been traumatic, that have caused fear, have caused anxiety or anger or worry or overwhelm. And whether you were a little kid or it happened yesterday. And as we pull in all the information during our day, what we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell through our five senses, if anything registers as through one of those files, triggers one of those files, the warning system goes off. Now, if you're in a building and somebody pulls the fire alarm, the sirens go off, the strobe lights go off, warning everybody that there's danger and you need to get to safety. Well, we also have a warning system within our body, but instead of lights and sirens, we have feeling states. And so as information is coming through our conscious awareness, our subconscious awareness, it may trigger something within our conscious, like this is dangerous, triggers our brain to create that adrenaline, that cortisol, other kind of hormones, neuropeptides, molecules that send the feeling of fear or anxiety or anger or worry or overwhelm into our body to warn us that there's danger. And we want that. You don't want to get rid of all anxiety and fear. That's what keeps you from walking down that dark alley at midnight, even though it's a shortcut home.
Mm.
Keep to the lighted streets, keep to the cross streets, even though it's going to take you an extra 15 minutes to walk home. Be safe. Don't stand so close to the edge of the building. Keep yourself safe. Here in the Southwest in America, well, I live up in the mountains, but down south in the desert, it would not be unusual to be walking down the trail and there's a rattlesnake in the trail. That's not your friend. Move away from the rattlesnake. That fear of the rattlesnake and the anxiety is going to keep yourself safe. So we want that, but not to
Mm.
the extent that it's impeding life. That's when it becomes not very resourceful to you. So if you have this chronic anxiety or this chronic anger or fear that's actually impeding life, then maybe the signals are just so ingrained to try to protect you that maybe you're not listening. It's sort of like a fire marshal going in a building and does a fire alarm test and nobody leaves. Well, they're going to turn up the volume on the alarm. They're going to turn up the brightness on the strobe lights. So same with this. If you're not listening or react or I don't know, responding to the anxiety in a resourceful way, it's just going to turn up the volume. And as humans, we have this protocol within our humanness that what we practice, you get better at. What is strongest within your mind is what you do over and over again. So if you're practicing the piano or the guitar or the violin, you're going to get better at that. You're practicing dance, you're practicing martial arts, you're going to get better at that. But what if you're practicing anxiety? What if you're practicing fear? Are you not going to get better at that? And so a lot of this work comes in two parts in terms of hypnotherapy. It's that deep healing work we do in a session. And again, you may not even know what the problem is because it's behind that curtain of the unconscious mind. You know what it is because you're reacting to the world. Again, it's a lot of effort to turn on the stress response, to change brain chemistry, to move all that blood into your muscles. That's a lot of effort the body has to go through. You know why you're doing it. It's just not random and willy-nilly. It's happening for a reason. You may not be consciously aware of the reason, but your subconscious mind is. That's why it's doing it. So you know why it is. And so by quieting down that conscious level of mind, relaxing, altering your state of consciousness down to the alpha brainwave state, you can access your subconscious. Sometimes it's just as easy to ask. It honestly is. Why are you feeling this? What's the first time you ever felt like that? And by accessing those, healing can happen. And again, I'm not fixing anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself is not fixing you. You're going to fix yourself. Because not only do you know what the problem is, more importantly, you know what the answer is. You know what to do about it. And I think this is where people kind of start spinning their wheels in talk therapy, because they're not talking about the core issue, because they don't know what it is. They're not talking about the roots of their hurt and their pain and their wounds, because again, they may not know what it is. They may have an aspect of it, but maybe that was only a trigger that happened 10 years after the fact. The real situation happened when they were 8, but the trigger happened when they were 20, when they moved and went to university or something. And that's when the anxiety really started. But the real link, the real core issue happened when they were a little kid, and they don't remember that.
Yeah.
And so how long in talk therapy are you going to talk about that until you finally get back to being a little kid? It was when you were a little kid. It's in the filing cabinet. So you are allowed to go and amend, edit, delete the instructions on how to keep yourself safe around that issue that's causing the problems. And really, it may have been the best thing a child could have done. Let's say, there's this home wasn't safe. Maybe there's some real trauma going on, some abuse going on. And the safest thing you could have done, the best thing the child could have done was keep themselves, was to hide and to, keep quiet and soften their voice and all that. That was the best thing the child could have done. But that's not going to work in your 20s and 40s and 60s and 80s. But until you change the instructions, nothing, why would anything change? If you're still running the same instructions on how to keep yourself safe that you set up when you were a child, which probably worked really great when you were a child, but if you're still using them and, 20 years later, 40 years later, it's not going to work very well. And so, but what's powerful about this, and this isn't to blame the victim or say it was your fault or that it was fair, no, it wasn't your fault. And I'm not here to blame you or blame the victim or anything, but you're the one who put those instructions in there on how to keep yourself safe, which becomes very empowering, because if you're the one who put them in there, you're the one who can change them. Right? You don't have to look outside of yourself to have someone else try to figure you out and tell you what's wrong with you and how to fix it. Because a good chance is they don't know.
Yeah.
That's why it takes months and months and years, potentially. And then with hypnotherapy, it can actually be very, very quick. Generally, I see people 3 or 4 times, and that's it. Wow. And so this isn't like talk therapy where I've met people who've been in talk therapy for years, and they're still hurting, and they're still in pain because they haven't found that root issue, because it's behind the curtain. And so with this work, what's so powerful about it is that it's a non-deceptive placebo. I'm not going to trick you into healing yourself. You're going to do it on purpose with your intention. And again, it's that, I mentioned that word before, intention. It's what you want to do. Again, I can't make anybody quit smoking or do any of those other things. If you want to quit smoking, you'll quit smoking. A lot of people point to those, shows you may see in a comedy club or a theater or Las Vegas. And it's a hypnotist show, and everybody's up there doing funny things and singing like Elvis Presley or Ringo Starr, or, dancing like Michael Jackson, or pretending they're on a roller coaster, or barking like a dog, or quacking like a duck. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to go to hypnotherapist because, look, I don't want to bark like a dog. And I was like, well, that's a show. That's entertainment. And everybody who gets up on that stage volunteered to be up there. Assuming it's real and it's not fake, or it's not set up in advance, and that's not the local improv troupe or local comedy troupe, that everybody who gets up there is a volunteer from the audience. Their intention is to get up there and have fun. That's not how I want to have fun. I'm sure, Sam, that's not how you want to have fun, maybe a lot of your listeners, but there's a group of people in the world who thinks that's really funny, and they want to do that. And so they go up on stage, introduce themselves. Yeah, I want to go into hypnosis, have a good time. Their intention is to entertain because they're extroverts, they're exhibitionists. They just want to have a fun time. They want a funny video to put on Instagram or TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they do. They have a great time. Look at their faces at the end of the show. They have a big smile on their face because they had a great time. So their intention is to entertain. Their intention is to have a fun time, and they do. So what if your intention is to heal? What are the chances that you're going to do it?
I like the
Yeah.
idea of putting that intention
Yeah.
front and center, and whatever your intention is, that's sort of almost the path that you're going to start to move on, whether you know it or not. And that stuff that happens in the unconscious mind, I think there's also a lot of power in what you said in there about realizing that the reactions that you're now doing to whatever the trigger was, say, those instructions, as you put it, you chose them, or what you made them at some point, and you probably have no idea that you did that, and you don't know. But realizing that in the present, and knowing then that you have the power to change them back or change them to a different thing, I think that's really, really nice what I took out of that
Yeah.
bit that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
So to sort of start with that intention of healing, people have to know that there's something wrong, and
Mhm.
sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. What are some of the signs that people might be living with some of these behaviors?
Yeah. Yeah. Generally, people come to me oftentimes as the last resort. They've tried everything else. So they know they're in pain. They know they're hurting. They've been to talk therapy. They've been to the doctors. Maybe they're in physical pain. They've been to the physical therapist, and nobody can find a reason for their pain. So maybe it's more of a psychosomatic kind of thing. And so people generally, you're hurting. You know you're in pain. You know you want to change. You just don't know how to do it. And when somebody wants to do a session with me, I'll send them an intake form. And mostly I do my sessions over Zoom now, not unlike this. And it works really well because, you feel comfortable and relaxed in your home. And ever since, the COVID era back in 2020, a lot of these kind of sessions where talk therapy or hypnotherapy, doctor's appointments have been going on Zoom, and it works really well. In fact, there's been research that show Zoom sessions work better than in person because
Oh,
people feel
wow.
safe in their homes. They live in a large city. They don't have to drive across town on a Friday afternoon in rush hour traffic. But when somebody makes an appointment, I send them an intake form to fill out online. And some people, in terms of describing what they're dealing with and what they want to work on, they might write 8 very detailed paragraphs, which is great. Here's the things I'm going through and what I want to work on. Other people may just write one word, anxiety. That's fine too, because they know what that means to them. And whether it's, 8 bullet points of all the different things in mass detail, or it's just one word, anxiety, or I just don't feel right, or I don't feel like myself anymore. They know what that means. And I just use their words. Okay, let's work on that feeling that you don't feel like yourself anymore. Where does that even feel like? Do you feel that somewhere in your body? Yeah, I feel it right here in my chest. Okay, what does that look like? Is it a color? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it soft? Is it rough? Is it smooth? Let's describe it. And then you've kind of uh, disassociated from it. It's not really you anymore. It's just this thing you're carrying, like a backpack or like a heavy, uncomfortable coat, and you can take it off. Because it's not you. It's just this maybe aspect that you've been carrying, and so that's why this stuff can go pretty quickly. Because again, you know what the problem is, and if you can point to it in your body. I feel it in my chest or my heart or my gut or the back of my neck or my low back or my head, and disassociate from it, and then link it to the thought or memory that's creating that feeling state. Because again, to create that feeling state, you have to change brain chemistry. And to change brain chemistry takes some effort. So you know why you're doing it. And you know why that anxiety or that feeling that you're not just right or you don't feel like yourself or it's fear or anger. You know why you're doing it. Again, maybe unconsciously. But it takes a lot of effort to change brain chemistry in that way and create that warning signal. So there's a purpose to it. maybe through a thought, maybe through a memory. The big problem is another aspect of being human, is that the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And that's what gets really frustrating because, yes, there's a rattlesnake, there's a bear coming at you, there's trouble in the street. Yeah, that's real danger, and you need that anxiety and that fear, that adrenaline to get going and keep you safe. But if it's another issue that maybe is caused due to something that happened 40 years ago, that's not a great way to just be moving through life. That's exhausting. And it'll literally change your physiology. And a good example of this is while somebody's having a nightmare in the middle of the night, even while sleeping, will change your physiology. Because let's say somebody having this ridiculous nightmare of a cheeseburger chasing you down the street, throwing coconuts at you. It's stupid. It's not going to happen. But your mind thinks it's real. It's a real threat. Its main job is to keep you safe and protected. And so it has a safety protocol of shoot first, ask questions later. And it'll turn on the stress response. Again, that's a lot of effort. 300% more blood moving the big muscle of your arms and legs, turning on all that adrenaline, turning down the power in your immune system, your digestive system, all in deep sleep. Because of this thought process of a cheeseburger chasing on the street. That's in deep sleep. What's happening in your waking world? If mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so you're allowed to change the instructions in your subconscious mind. And because of that feeling state that's being created as a warning signal, it's connected to the thought or memory that's creating it, even if it's in the unconscious. There's a purpose behind that warning signal, that feeling state. You know what it is because you're creating it. Again, behind the curtain, maybe, but through hypnosis, through this therapeutic hypnosis, you can open up the curtain, you alter your state of consciousness into a relaxed state, not unlike maybe feeling like you're meditating or watching TV or bored in class, and find out what that is and change it, heal it, amend it, whatever you need to do. And that's why this doesn't take a really long time to do. You know what the problem is, so let's fix it.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds a very powerful way to look at it. And obviously, like you said, it's the last resort for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
for them only doing 3 or 4 sessions on average, that shows the effectiveness really
Mhm.
of going sort of
Yeah.
straight to the source, if you like. Like you said, people know what it is that's wrong. Um, in terms of confidence, then, so that's sort of anxiety. So let's talk a little
Mhm.
bit about confidence and low self-esteem. So you also do work around that. Is that right?
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. And that's a problem for, I think, a great many people, because there's a fear of embarrassment or humiliation or just getting it wrong. Because unfortunately, a lot of us learned in school that if we do it wrong, we get punished. We get a bad grade, and then we get grounded at home, and we don't get to go out with friends or whatever. Instead of just, oh, you didn't understand that assignment. Let's just do some extra work to make sure you understand how these equations work or the science works or whatever. But instead, it's like, well, you got punished, and you're going to have to go to summer school, or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, and we take that with us throughout life. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be shown to be wrong, and that can affect confidence because, well, I'm not too sure on how to do this assignment, or I got to get up and do a presentation at the conference, and I don't feel comfortable because I've never done that before. Well, again, there's oftentimes the lack of confidence is just telling you need to practice a little bit. Especially, let's use the example of giving a presentation. Well, if you don't feel confident in that, what can you do to feel confident? Do you need to practice? Do you need to gather some friends or some people from the office or at work and practice in front of them? You need to join an organization here in America as a Toastmasters or something like that and practice. What you practice, you get better at. What is strongest within your mind is what you do over and over again. You are confident in a great many things.
Mm.
You're confident at tying your shoes. You're confident that you can zip up your jacket. You're confident you can boil water and make pasta. You're confident, great, and those may be small, little, silly things, but there's a feeling state to confidence. I know if I asked you to, you could walk over to your shoes, put them on, tie a bow, and walk out, and your shoes wouldn't fall off. You are confident that you could do that. That's a feeling state in your body. Where do you feel it? What color is it? What does it look like? And now let's link that to the event or the situation that you don't have confidence in. There also, again, may be some work around that you have to practice.
Mm.
And just linking confidence to getting up and doing a presentation doesn't mean that you're going to do well at the presentation unless you practice. Like anything, it takes some skill to do things. So sometimes that fear is telling you don't have the skill level necessary to feel confident. So get it. So that may mean some extra work.
Mm.
But in terms of that, like the low self-esteem and lack of confidence, yeah, we get a lot of people telling us maybe we're not worthy, or maybe we're telling ourselves we're not worthy. And so again, what you practice, you get better at. So the opposite of that is practicing confidence, practicing self-esteem. A great way to do that, just a real quick technique, is writing. A lot of people, I'm sure, listening to your show, Sam, know about the gratitude journal, and to write out things you're grateful for.
Mm.
And the reason why that is important is because we have this part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And its main job is to keep you safe, keep you alive. It's that thing when you're driving down the road and you have the green light, and out of your peripheral vision, you see a car going towards the red, so you automatically slam on the brakes. That's your reticular activating system. The secondary task is to solve problems, find solutions, and create answers. And this is that part of your mind where if you're thinking about buying a new car and you're thinking about, let's say, here in America, thinking about buying a Toyota Prius, now you see Toyota Priuses everywhere. They were there yesterday and last year and the year before, but you didn't notice them because you weren't focused on needing a new car. But now in trying to create a solution to a new car, it gets good gas mileage, I'll get a Toyota Prius. Now you see them everywhere. All the parking lots are driving down the streets. And then you think, well, yeah, like Prius is pretty cool, but I like being outdoors. I like going out in nature. I should get a four-wheel drive car. I should get a Jeep. Well, now you don't see Priuses anymore, but now there's like a Jeep convention in town. There's Jeeps everywhere. Well, they were always parked next to the Priuses. They're always driving down the street, but again, you just didn't notice them.
Mm.
And so that's your reticular activating system. What you focus your attention on, what's important to you in the moment, you'll start seeing around you. That's because we're being inundated with about 11 million bits of information per second. What we see, hear, touch, taste, smell, the temperature of the room, how bright it is, how dark it is. Things maybe we don't notice unless it's too cold or too hot, too bright or too dark. And so we're being inundated with all this information, but we're only cognizant, we're only conscious of 50 bits of
Mm.
that 11 million. So we have to filter out a lot of stuff. And so the idea behind the gratitude journal, or just writing things you're grateful for, is that you're going to focus your reticular activating system not to find more Priuses or more Jeeps, but more things you're grateful about in life.
Mm.
And so what I tell people, and when I work with them as an exercise to do at home for their homework, write 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you like about yourself, and 3 things you do well. Again, these have to be different every day. And so of course the gratitude is just to find more things in your day that you're grateful for, but 3 things you like about yourself. I like that I can get on Zoom and talk to people. I like that I have good taste in my shirts. I like that I enjoy a good cup of whatever it is. It doesn't
Mm.
have to be big huge stuff. And the reason why that's important, because if you keep writing down things that you like about yourself, that's going to increase your self-esteem. 3 things you do well. I tie my shoes well. I boil water well for pasta. I walk down the street really well. Well, that's going to increase your confidence. Look at all these things I'm good at. Look at all
Mm.
these things I do well. And so again, it's that what you practice, you get better at. And there's a certain relentlessness to this work. Nobody, I think, in this day and age, would argue the point that every day we need to do something for our physical health. At least 3 or 4 times a week. We either need to be going to dance class or martial arts or the gym or whatever, Zumba class or whatever it is, going on a bike ride, walking out in nature or around the park, around the street. We need to be doing something hopefully 3 or 4 times a week, but hopefully every day for our physical health. You don't just get to go to a personal trainer once, work out at the gym twice, and that's it for the rest of your life, the next 50 years. No, you have to do something every day for your physical health, your nutrition, what you're fueling your body with, what you're drinking, how you're exercising your body every day. So why wouldn't we think that would go for our emotional health and our mental health as well? There's a relentlessness. Just you got to be focusing on your physical health. If you want to be awesome when you're in your 80s, you got to be thinking about it now. But same with your emotional health and your mental health. If you want to be awesome next year with your confidence and your happiness and your joy, what are you doing right now today to practice joy, to practice happiness, to
Mm.
practice confidence? I think people think that because they get rid of their hurt and their pain and that trauma they experienced maybe when they were a child, that all of a sudden it's going to be rainbows and unicorns and joy and happiness and cotton candy. And it's not. It may be, but more than likely that's something you're going to have to practice because you've been practicing that hurt and pain for so long. Maybe the wiring is a little dusty in your head. It's not as strong as maybe it was in the past. But you can build it back up just like a muscle. Just like if somebody breaks their leg and their leg's in a cast for 2 months, yeah, those muscles are going to atrophy. Well, take the cast off, you're going to exercise the leg, the muscles are going to get stronger. Same with this. Yeah, maybe
Mm.
your joy connections are a little atrophied. That's fine. Practice. Practice joy. Practice happiness. Just pretend. And again, this is where that whole idea of the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so even though, while I'm not happy, I'm not joyful, I'm not confident, well, you can pretend you are, though. And the
Mm.
mind can't
Yeah.
tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. See yourself at that conference doing well in the presentation and getting a standing ovation. Practice that day after day after day. Just like an Olympic athlete is going to mentally rehearse whatever they're doing. If they're doing gymnastics,
Yeah.
they're going to obviously practice, but they're going to also sit on a recliner, sit on the couch, and they're going to mentally go through their routine, the twists and the tumbles and the turns and the jumps and
That visualization,
all the
isn't
things.
it?
They're going to
Yeah.
visualize it in their mind because we know that'll actually fire the same brain cells in the
Mm.
same way as if they're actually doing it.
Mm.
So that
Yeah.
mental rehearsal will actually wire your brain for that success.
Mm.
So that gets a little frustrating because what if you're visualizing failure? Are you therefore not wiring failure into your head? So this is where you really got to be on top of what you're thinking, feeling, and being aware enough to like, okay, I need to change this
Mm.
pretty quick because you're wiring that stuff into your system. So you're allowed to change it. You don't have to feel like that. And but a big part of the process, again, like I think I said a little bit before, there's kind of two parts to this. So yeah, there's a deeper healing work in the session that we do, maybe around the trauma you experienced or the hurt or the pain or the anger you're experiencing. But the part two is what are you doing at home? So yeah, you go to the personal trainer, okay, you want your body to look like this, you want to lose weight, you want to build muscle, here's what some things you can do for your body type and all that. But then you have to go do it.
Mm.
And same with on a daily basis or at least a regular basis. And same with this. It's like, okay, you want the joy, the happiness, the confidence, you can have it, all that you want, but it takes some practice,
Yeah, and it comes
you
down
know?
to that practice 100%, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
I think the emphasis on that practice is rightly so. I think I've spoken a lot about similar things with a lot of my guests and that repetition of doing things. People go into a situation, like a presentation, for example, and they think, oh, I don't feel confident doing this. Why don't I feel? And they suddenly start talking themselves down about it.
Hmm.
But if you've never done one before, why should you feel confident? And
Exactly.
it's that practice, and it's you're also building that evidence base for the future. So if
Mhm.
you every single time you do something, you put it on a piece of paper and put it in a stack, that stack gets bigger and bigger as you go through life. And
Mhm.
every time you come into that situation and you feel that way, or you might start to subconsciously start talking yourself down from it, well, actually, you can look over here at this massive stack of evidence that you have done this before and you can do it. Um, and it's quite a nice way to visualize it for people as well, just starting to build that evidence base. So in terms of how this actually looks for people, obviously you've spoken there about doing the work away from the personal trainer. So in this case, you could say you are the personal trainer, you're the
Yeah.
hypnotherapist. So people come to you, they've then got to do the work away from that. What sort of things would you be having people do in their own time? So if people are listening to
Okay.
this and there's something that they want to, can you give anything that
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
listening
Let
could
me
do
give you
now?
a quick little 5-minute exercise. Well, first, the writing exercise. I highly recommend doing that. That's 2 minutes out of
Mm,
your day. 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you like about yourself, 3 things you do well. That's 2 minutes out of your life, 3 minutes tops. And it's got to be different every time.
mm,
And another one is a really great exercise. And of course, if you're driving a car listening to this, maybe kind of clock where we are in our conversation and come back to this. But if it's safe for you to do so and close your eyes, maybe just follow along and we'll just do this for a couple of minutes.
mhm,
But this is a great way to reset your nervous system as well as literally change the chemistry in your brain. This was developed by Dr. Richard Nongard, a wonderful psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. And it's called 3-2-1 reset. And the 3 stands for 3 slow, gentle, easy breaths. You want to fill up your abdomen because by filling up your gut, you're going to flatten out your diaphragm and get air into the bottom of your lungs. Your lungs are huge. If you feel where your rib cage is, your lungs are huge, but oftentimes we're just breathing into the top part of our lungs, the smaller, narrower part of our lungs. The brain takes 20% of the oxygen we breathe in. So the more air you can get into your lungs by deep breathing into the bottom of your lungs, of course, the more oxygen, the more nutrients you can send to your brain for rational, calm thinking. So 3 slow, gentle breaths into your abdomen. Another aspect of this is the vagus nerve. And of course, we're dealing in terms of what we've been talking about, Sam, is the 2 parts of the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic's the stress response, fight or flight response. Parasympathetic's the relaxation response. That's where all the systems of your body are getting the right amount of nutrients and blood supply and oxygen to work at optimum levels for what needs to be happening when the body's at rest. And so the vagus nerve comes out of the back of the head. Vagus is Latin for wonder because it attaches to the eyes, to the ears, goes um, attaches to the muscles of the jaw, goes down past the vocal cords, attaches to heart, lungs, and gut. The vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system. By breathing slowly, easily, and gently, the vagus nerve is attached to the lungs. You stimulate the vagus nerve, therefore activate the parasympathetic. So this isn't hard. This is really
mm,
easy to do. Another aspect of the breathing is the audible sigh on the exhale. Because again, the vagus nerve goes past the vocal cords. This is why humming and singing feel so good. It's because you're stimulating the vagus nerve, therefore activating the parasympathetic. So taking a deep breath in through your nose and then exhaling with a sigh. Ah. Actually really help reset your nervous system in just a handful of minutes. So for this particular exercise, 3 slow, gentle breaths in. The 2 is we're going to take our 2 hands and grab our shoulders.
mhm,
Now this will make an X in front of your chest. You'll notice that this is a hug. The body is sensing this as healing, loving, nurturing touch. And you can, just grab your shoulders. You can rub your hands up and down your arms, like the havening technique. Whatever feels good, a bear hug. Because through the nerves within your body, you're now sending a signal back up to your brain for loving, healing touch. You're now changing the chemistry within your brain to create oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, even though you're giving the hug to yourself. And this is also bilateral stimulation, which is a whole another way of creating calm and peace within the brain. And like walking is bilateral stimulation, left foot, right foot, left foot. By operating on both sides of the brain, because right side of the body is controlled by the left side of the brain, left side of the body is controlled by the right side of the brain. When you kind of do the opposite, like walking or drumming on your knees, if you've ever done that or seen somebody do that, it's bilateral stimulation and it helps calm the brain down. And so with this hug, we're now creating oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine in the brain literally changing our brain chemistry. And we are now going to supersize all this by thinking of somebody you want to give a hug to. So we're going to start lighting up the visual part of the brain. And this person can be in your life today, be a good friend, a family member, maybe one of your children, both children, all of your children. It could be a dog, your pet, a cat. It could be somebody who's no longer with us, your grandmother, your grandfather. Maybe somebody you've never met before, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, somebody. And so 3, 2, 1, reset. 3 slow, gentle breaths in. You're going to grab your shoulders, making that X on in front of your chest. But obviously, this is a hug. You're hugging yourself, and then visualizing somebody you want to give a hug to, pretending. We've talked about this for this last hour. Mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So your mind and body thinks you're hugging somebody you care for. And again, this is changing your chemistry in your brain. You're creating that oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. You're creating these neuropeptides, these molecules, literally of molecules of love and joy and happiness that are hundreds of millions dumping into your bloodstream. And so you feel different. And so this little exercise, 3, 2, 1, reset, just 5 minutes, 6 minutes, will literally reset your nervous system and change the chemistry within your brain. And you can do this all day long. There's no negative side effects to doing this 10 times a day. It's only positive side effects. And a great time to do it is in the morning. Because remember, I was talking about the reticular activating system. By putting yourself in this state of happiness, of joy, love, you're now focusing your reticular activating system to find yourself more things to be joyful about, more things to be happy about. And it's called 3, 2, 1, reset, not 3, 2, 1, do this once and your life is rainbows and unicorns. Do this over and over and over. Reset yourself over and over and over again. If your life, there's always going to be challenges in life. That's just part of the human experience. And so if you have challenges during your day, take 5 minutes to reset yourself. Before you go to that meeting, before you pick up your kids from school, before you walk back into the house for dinner after a really bad day, reset yourself. Sit in your car and reset yourself. And or go to the bathroom, reset yourself. Find an empty office or your own office or your bedroom or something. Reset yourself. Do it again, and do it while you're going to sleep too. Imagine flooding your body with oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine instead of worrying about tomorrow or fearing what happened, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Imagine instead hacking your system and saying, "Oh, no, I'm not going to fear tonight. I'm going to go to sleep feeling awesome." And bathing your entire system in 8 hours of sleep with oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. Imagine how you're going to wake up in the morning and then do it again.
Yeah.
And really all that is 5 minutes in the evening, 5 minutes in the morning. That's 10 minutes out of your life to like literally change how you feel on a cellular level. And it's really easy. 3, 2, 1, reset. Super simple.
No, I love that. That's really well explained as well. So I'm excited to give that a go. And obviously anyone listening as well, let us know how it went for you. But that alongside the writing as well, I think the gratitude journaling and stuff like that, really between the two, a lot of mind changing things for the positive. So tell me a little bit about your course.
Oh, right. I mentioned the ACT test. I've worked with a lot of people who struggle with test anxiety and very intelligent, extraordinarily smart people. But something somewhere triggers this nervousness and anxiety around being tested on the material they know backwards and forwards. And so I worked one-on-one with people and just kind of researching about it because it seemed to be a common experience so many people have, including my own son, probably including myself. I noticed it during a hypnotherapy academy. Okay, we're having a test that's coming up to move on to the next module. It's like, and we're all hypnotherapists, and we're still getting nervous about taking a test. But just working with people and looking out there, I didn't really see any sort of comprehensive training program around it. There's some books, some kids' books, some picture books for little kids. There's 5-minute videos on YouTube. But and there's some blog posts on university websites about it, but I didn't see anything really comprehensive. They just usually regurgitate the same talking points over and over again about, oh, you need to study and you need to be well rested and don't eat sugary things or whatever. But I didn't see anything really comprehensive, like, teaching people how to do exercise, like I just taught, like real world solutions to dealing with the anxiety someone feels for a test, or if you're an actor or a musician, an audition or a job interview or public speaking. And so I created ACE Any Test due to a lot of the work I've been working with people. Well, I know all this works with people with test anxiety. So here's, 12 different lessons on how to deal with test anxiety, because, there's not one fit all solution. People have different experiences with test anxiety for different reasons. So there's 12 different lessons, and it's just teaching you how to reclaim your nervous system and reset it, and how to eliminate test anxiety. And ACE Any Test, so aceanytest.com. And my hypnotherapy practice, I live in Arizona, Flagstaff, Arizona, so I named it Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, because I was just working with people in Flagstaff and Phoenix. But since the COVID issues, I work with people around the country of America, around the world. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I worked with a professional basketball player in Iceland, and he had gotten my name from a friend of his I worked with who lives in Puerto Rico. The world is super small. So whether
absolutely,
I work with people in Vienna and Bulgaria and London, and it's not to toot my own horn, but just to show you the world is small. And so a great way to find me, though, because I know Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy is a mouthful, but if you Google Flagstaff hypnosis, you'll see me pop up in the search results there. Or aceanytest.com. That's easy to remember.
ACE Any Test, yeah. I know you're on any social media or anything for anyone?
I do it, but I'm at an age where I'm not very good at it. And so I do Facebook and a little bit of Instagram, but I'm not on there all the time. So email's probably better.
Yeah. Well, I'll link aceanytest.com and the rest down below as well, for the listeners to scroll down. So just to finish off, I like to leave the listener with a question to take away. So I ask my guests to suggest a question for the listener to take away from this episode. They can then ask it to a relative, a friend, a stranger, and it's just to get them sort of having a conversation. So it doesn't have to necessarily be around what we've spoken about today, but if you could give them a question, what would that question be?
That's interesting. I'm a big proponent about the practicing, and I think it would make a really wonderful discussion to ask, what do you see me practicing every day? Or what do you think you practice every day to create either the confidence or the lack of confidence, to create the joy or create the anxiety that you're dealing with? I heard these two guys on a podcast talking about, the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So I wonder, how does that affect our lives? And I know I've been really angry the last few months. I'm wondering if I've been practicing that. I can make a wonderful conversation if you feel that it's safe enough to do so with the people you're around. It could get really deep.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. So if you're listening, go and take that away for the week and use it. Craig, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been really interesting, really expanded my understanding of what it is that you do, and hopefully everyone listening will have taken stuff away from today.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Sam, for your patience with all our rescheduling, but I've been really looking forward to talking with you, and I'm glad we've finally made the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was worth the wait. So anyone listening, if you did enjoy this episode, please do share it with anyone who you think will find some value from it. If you haven't already, follow the podcast and rate the show as well. That really helps us reach new people. And also you can follow us on Instagram, and we clip up different episodes so you can see different aspects and different ideas. So that's at Lonely Chapter Podcast. And lastly from me, thank you for listening.